that, I'd like to hand it over to Tanya Travis, who is actually a past president of the League of Women Voters. And thank you so much. And thank you all of the panelists for being here tonight.
Thank you, Jen. So as she mentioned, I did serve as president of the League of Women Voters for many years. And so I see a lot of familiar faces around here. Thank you all so much for coming. Welcome. The League of Women Voters really taught me everything I know about state and local government. They helped me know who people are and how legislation works and how it really starts at this level, at this grassroots level. And it's a valuable organization, and I'm very proud of them. So our panel this evening will be a discussion on local air, climate, and land initiatives, as Jan mentioned. The League has hosted yearly updates on the work by the Citizens for Clean Air, and this year we're expanding our discussion to include local organizations that are working to protect and expand our knowledge on environmental health. We have Kristin Winn representing Citizens for Clean Air. We have Jane Wyatt from the Western Slope Sierra Club. And then we have Kathryn Bedell, who's on the board of directors for the American Grassfed Association. Laura Bloom is unable to attend tonight, but we'll read a statement that she gave us. And I want to thank the program committee for organizing this event. I know how much work it is. And as Jan mentioned, the League does have a long history of policy priorities in environmental stewardship. They really have made a huge difference at local and state levels over time. So first, we're going to have each member of our panel introduce themselves with a description of their organization and their responsibility. Following these introductions, I do have a list of prepared questions, and we'll go to the panelists for this, and then we'll open the questions to the audience for your questions. So let's just start with an overview of your organization. You'll explain your mission and some of the most important air environmental issues in Mesa County and how you're addressing this concern. So Janet, you want to start?
Sure, why not? Okay. Well, Sierra Club is an American environmental organization with chapters in all 50 states, as well as Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. The mission statement has expanded over time. It used to just be explore, enjoy, and protect, but now it is explore, enjoy, and protect the wild places of the earth, to practice and promote the responsible use of the Earth's ecosystems and resources, to educate and enlist humanity to protect and restore the quality of the natural and human environment, and to use all lawful means to carry out these objectives. And having said all that, our Western Slope Sierra Club has hundreds of members in 4.5 counties. That's how large the Western Slope Sierra Club is. And although we have hundreds of members, most of them are in monetary value only. The core group is mostly located right here in the valley, but we are small and mighty. We like to hike and ski, and we like to learn new things. We're all very curious. We play music together sometimes. We like to have potlucks. We brainstorm ideas, and we share stories. I said that. Okay.
Thanks, Janet. Kristin, you want to go next?
I am Kristin Winn, and I've been in the Valley since 1995, I believe. Okay, sorry. I've been in the Valley since 1995. I came with a background in public relations and marketing in the ski industry, and moved to Grand Junction to take a job with the city of Grand Junction doing public relations for them. I am retired, and before I retired, I got involved with an organization that was just starting called Citizens for Clean Air, and that was in January of 2013. So we have been working, a small, mighty volunteer group, have been working for 10 years on air quality issues, and Peggy was one of our original members, and Tom Phillips is here. But we've never been a big organization, but our mission statement is to research the causes of Western Slope air pollution and promote the improvement of air quality in Mesa County through grassroots involvement with local, state, and federal efforts to mitigate the effects of known air pollutants on humans, agriculture, and the environment. So we started out doing some research, because at the time the group formed, we really weren't sure what was causing all of our air quality issues. We have learned a lot since we formed this group. And so we have identified the following as really large contributors to our air quality issues: open burning, wood burning stoves, agricultural burning, oil and gas emissions, auto emissions, and wildfire smoke. Now, up until 2020, we probably wouldn't have had wildfire smoke on that list. Not only is it the largest contributor to bad air quality here in the Grand Valley, but worldwide. And one of the things that we are seeing, we started doing some research because at the time there were 2 air quality monitors in the entire valley. So we didn't really have a lot of information about what our air quality was. We began researching companies that were developing low-cost air quality monitors. Tom Phillips came to us and said, "I've heard about this company called Purple Air." So Tom and Dr. Jerry Nelson both spent about a year researching these various monitors and companies and chose Purple Air. We were able to get, thank you, Eric, we were able to get a grant, purchase some of these monitors, install them. We now service 60 air quality monitors in the Grand Valley. And so we now do have on real data that we can check on a website, and it'll tell you exactly what's happening with air quality. And that has been extremely beneficial worldwide. Purple Air monitors are worldwide. If you go to their website, purpleair.com/map, you can see air quality around the world. And so when you have these large fires in places like Canada, you can see what the impact is to air quality, and it is severe. And it used to be we were worried about the people with asthma and children. Now, with forest fires as large as they are, everyone is impacted by that smoke. So it's a serious concern. We have done a number of different things, of which I don't have time to go into everything. But I will tell you that one of the more recent things we have been involved in is biochar. Those of you who are not familiar with biochar, my husband says it's not a new hamburger at Wendy's. No, it's not. Biochar is created by burning vegetative material, things like wood, trees, nutshells, hulls. You burn it in a furnace at high temperature with low oxygen, and that's called pyrolysis. And what that creates is something that looks a lot like charcoal, but if you look at it under a microscope, it has thousands of tiny cavities in it. And all of that carbon is created from the vegetative material. So instead of burning the vegetative material and polluting and releasing carbon into the air, you create a product that can be put back into the soil and enhance the soil and also capture more moisture in the soil. And needless to say, that's a huge, huge benefit, particularly here on the Western Slope with our overuse of the Colorado River. And, you know, it's going to be a major problem for everyone, is having enough water for the things we need, like agriculture. So we have spent the last 3 years doing some research. We've had gardens where we were growing vegetables with biochar added to the soil, or just compost, or nothing at all, just the soil. The first year we discovered that yes, vegetables do grow better with biochar. We expanded. The second year we had 6 different plots, and We don't have all the results back, but what we measure is the plant size, the yield, and the soil moisture in these various plots. So this year we worked with CSU Orchard Mesa Research Center, and they gave us some plots that we again are growing vegetables on and gathering the statistics on soil moisture and yield. Why are we doing this? Well, our ultimate goal is to be able to show farmers and gardeners that biochar is a beneficial addition to soil, that you can use what is considered waste material and create a product that is going to enhance the soil, keep the air cleaner, and perhaps allow us to use less water to grow vegetables and to grow crops. So one of our local farmers, Michael Lobato, he was able to get a grant and doing some experiments this summer at the CSU Grand Valley Station near Fruta, where they injected biochar into pastures. And one is a control pasture and one is one with biochar. And where he is checking to see, can that pasture thrive with less water if there is biochar added to it? So our ultimate goal then would be to raise funds to purchase an industrial biochar furnace that could be brought here to our valley so that we could make biochar here in the Grand Valley. Biochar has gotten quite expensive. So and it's heavy. So in order to transport it, you've got all that extra transportation cost. So what we would like to do is to partner, get some grants, find some partners, bring in a biochar furnace and start making it available for people here to start using. So that's what we've been up to. So it's a pretty interesting project. And with that, I will let somebody else talk.
You can hand it to Kathryn.
Hi, I'm Kathryn Bedell, and I represent the American Grassfed Association. I represent the American Grassfed Association, among others, and I'll go into that in a minute. So I've been a member of the American Grassfed Association since 1999, which is about when they formed. The Grassfed Association is basically a certifying group that certifies ranchers that feed only grass or herbaceous material to their cattle. So no feedlotting and absolutely no grains or antibiotics. So I don't know if you've seen the little label, but they have a label that's approved by the USDA, and it certifies that what you're eating, the beef that you're eating, is 100% grass-fed. And so it's 3 little grass things on a green label at the bottom of your beef. If you see that, you know you're not getting any antibiotics, any pesticides, any herbicides, and they've only eaten grass. So the reason why I was asked to be on the board is because I'm heavily involved in agricultural policy. So one of the other hats I wear, besides, well, I'll start locally. So I'm on the county agricultural advisory board. So we advise the county commissioners when something agricultural comes up, complaints or one of the right to farm issues. And then state-wise, I'm on the State Agricultural Commission as well, appointed by Governor Polis. And then I also am a member of Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, where I sit on their policy committee for the last 3 years. So we do lobbying activities both at the state and at the national level on agricultural policy. And then the reason why the American Grassfed wanted me on the board is because there's some labeling issues that are starting to come forward, and they wanted my voice to maintain the integrity of labeling in agricultural products. So you've probably heard about greenwashing and labels not being truthful. Well, the Federal Trade Commission is going to start addressing some of those issues. And so they're going to need the voices of people that have been using those labels for a long time. So I'm also a rancher. I have been ranching on the Western Slope since 1999. I started a grass-fed beef business in 2004 and started direct marketing grass-fed beef in 2006. So have a lot of experience in the, farm to table space. So, and I've done farmers markets around the area for, I don't know, over 20 years now. I took a little break, owned a grocery store for a while, sold that. And now I'm helping other people market, do business plans, expand their farms, and move more into regenerative ag. So with the Grassfed Association, I'm working on a climate smart ag project, which is figuring out what we need to do to incentivize more ranchers to shift to more regenerative practices. So we're looking at cash payments to help them change, because change is always expensive. You need different equipment or no equipment or new fencing or something like that. And then we're also looking at creating markets for regenerative raised products, not necessarily meat, but like hides and some of the other things that you get from cattle. So trying to use the whole cow and all parts of the cow from regeneratively raised cattle and making those products valuable again. So that's that's what I do.
Thank you all for giving that description. I'm going to ask you some prepared questions. The first one I'm going to send to you, Janet, because it's just about some of the major factors and entities that contribute to the work that you're doing. Because I noticed on your website, there's kiosks you guys are building. Is that you? Yes. Okay. And so can you talk to kind of some of the problems around that project, and then how you need to collaborate with certain?
Wow, I didn't know you were going to ask me that tonight. Okay. Well, our group, well, I kind of came up with the idea, but I presented it to our group. Eric Reckel found out that there was some grant money or money that needed to be spent through the Sierra Club. And we just had to write up a grant and ask for the $20,000. So I wrote up a proposal. I said, well, we like to educate the public on issues or things that we think are important. And one of them is prairie dogs. Most of us love the little critters, and we think they're really important in the environment. They are a keystone species. So we came up with the idea of creating these kiosks and consulted with the BLM. The other kiosk is on desert riparian ecosystems. Thank you. And we thought we were working with the BLM pretty closely, but it's been 2.5 years. Our project has been one hurdle after the other. We keep getting told something different. And it's discouraging, actually. We're trying to be patient. We understand we're working with a government entity, that they have all of their rules. It's hard when you're encouraged in the beginning, though, and you think you're doing everything that they're telling you to, and then they keep changing the rules on you and whatnot. We are hoping still that we will get these kiosks in the ground, and you might see one out in Rabbit Valley if we're lucky. That's the riparian desert ecosystems one. And the prairie dog kiosks are still up in the air. We're not sure. They want to stick us up on Otto's Ridge. If any of you have ever been up there, parasailing, paragliding. We're like, really? Out here, we're about, what, 30 people come up here? Who's going to see this kiosk? So anyway, that's that.
Well, that really addresses some of the patience, right, for some of these projects that take just, I think even the league really understands step by step. So in that same light, just you talked to the major issues that are contributing to air quality. So can you talk about other things that you can address as far as air qualities, other things that are going on with the clean air group that you think, kind of invite collaboration, or that, for instance, I noticed at Tri-River that you guys were there just kind of doing demonstrations about biochar. So I see that as a partner to something that you're doing. So is there anything else as far as air quality that you see as something that helps with education or with what you're doing?
In terms of open burning, making sure people understand that they have alternatives to open burning. And so educating people, and we've seen the numbers of permits go down, and occasionally we have some success. I had a friend who said, "It's all your fault. I don't burn anymore." Good. But we need a few more people who feel that way. So it's being open to discuss that, and let people know there are alternatives to burning. Both the city and the county have reduced the amount of they've increased the regulations so that you have to have at least an acre to burn. Mesa County allows burning for a month longer in the spring and the fall than the city. It would be nice if those regulations were the same, but right now they're not. One of the things, the frustration with wildfire smoke is we feel like that's an overwhelming global problem that we have no control over. And so one of the things that we have done is try to educate people on how to protect themselves when the air quality is bad. And that is using do-it-yourself air filters. A 20 by 20 box fan and a MERV 13 filter would be less than $50, and they work just as well as $100 air filter that you can buy. So there are ways to protect yourself. If you have a swamp cooler, you're going to have all the smoke coming into your house. And so a lot of people don't understand, because we have these air quality monitors, we also put some indoors. And I learned a lot in my own house. Frying, stir frying, cooking with an oven that needs cleaning. Thanksgiving is the most polluting day for indoor air quality. There was a significant study done to what happens to your indoor air quality when you're cooking all day long in preparation for Thanksgiving, and it's not a pretty picture. So here's my little tip for indoor air quality. If you're going to do those things, open a window, even in the dead of winter. Let some of that stuff out, because you can create some pretty bad air inside your home just by not paying attention. But again, there are things that we all can do. And auto emissions, we haven't really figured out a way to do that. But 10 years ago, we didn't have as many electric vehicles. So I have great hope that some of the things we're seeing coming down the pike will absolutely impact our air quality in a positive way. Another thing is regenerative agriculture. More and more farmers understanding that there are better ways to not burn that vegetative material. Lowell King and his family have about 800 acres under regenerative ag out in the Fruta Loma area. Lowell takes his cattle and moves them on a daily basis, and those cattle eat the what's it called? I'm having a senior moment here. The cover crop. He plants a cover crop in the fall, and those cattle eat the cover crop, things like daikon radishes. They love those. And so he's feeding his cattle with the cover crop. He's not hauling hay like so many ranchers do. And that's a piece of work, to haul hay all winter long to feed your cattle. So he is taking that very expensive hay and selling it to people who want to feed their horses with it. So it's actually helping his bottom line. And so I think as more information becomes available, when we know better, we do better. So I have great hope that in the future we will have better air quality in the Grand Valley. And we're pretty fortunate. When we don't have inversions, we actually have very good air quality. But we are also living in a bowl. And so when we get an inversion, if it gets cold in December and it snows and the ground stays cold, we are almost every time going to have an inversion that affects our air quality. So those are the things you have to look for.
Yeah, you start to think about air quality and it gets to be very broad, just all the things that can affect it. And then all the remediation that's probably in front of us still to do. So Kathryn, I know how much you have to collaborate with people, and I'm going to extend this question. So the next question was about, what do city, county, and state entities have the ability to change. And so kind of include that in all your advocacy.
So the state has been working very hard in their soil health program and their regenerative ag and conservation program. So the Department of Agriculture in our state, which is actually meeting here this week, there's a public forum on Wednesday night up at the research station on B.5 Road on East Orchard Mesa. You're invited to attend. If you're interested, get with me and I'll get you more information. But she has, the Commissioner Greenberg has started the soil health department, or has hired a director for soil health, hired a director for conservation, is really pushing those regenerative agricultural processes that are really going to help our state as far as mitigating climate change, not only here, but of course it affects the globe, the nation and the globe. So that's really a positive thing. Our governor really has, it is one of his, he calls them WIGs, they're wildly important goals. And soil health has been there since he started. So building, adding biochar, some of that research is getting state funded now. So that's never happened before. And some of these newer practices like regenerative ag and cover cropping are really, we're in the forefront here in Colorado because we have the support of our state. So that's pretty transformational for, and we're a leader. They had the Western states ag departments, and they came to Colorado to see what we were doing because we're so successful in this shift to regenerative ag. So they're paying attention, and it's been really good. Unfortunately, our county pays no attention at all. We do have some great people like the Kings and the Bernals and lots of other people that are planting cover crops and using grazing and using biochar and reducing their chemical sprays completely. If you ask Lowell, he thinks burning is the worst thing you can possibly do on your agricultural property because it's taking nutrients and sending them up to the air, and he just thinks that's ridiculous. And I'm going to beg to differ about something about wildfires, because my friend on the Front Range, who is also a regenerative ag, says cows can save the planet. What we need and what we used to have was a lot of grazers that would take that dead grass that was around the Marshall Fire and graze it down so we don't have the fuel loads. The same in the forest. When cattle or large grazing animals go through, they clean up the understory and it really slows the spread of the fires right down. So we can do something. And same in Maui. It's like if all that old sugarcane ground had been grazed down, they wouldn't have had the fire problem. So there is something we can do. It needs some more practices, people with open minds to try things. And in fact, I do have some good news because the city here is just going to try goats for brush control in the area. So there's a ranch up out of Garfield County that's going to bring a bunch of goats down, and they're going to try it on some of the public lands here in the city. So that'll be exciting to see. So hopefully the goats don't escape and we don't have a hard herd of goats running around. But there's lots of good things going on. But what I tell people you have to remember is it took us 70, 80 years to get where we are now. It's going to take some time. And unfortunately, it takes money.
So if you drive anywhere out in HJI, all of those roads, you really are starting to see sprawl. Like there just seems to be so much going on with building subdivisions. So I'm going to go back to you, Kathryn, because I've heard you say how, what are we going to do to really, keep our agricultural heritage alive? And it's so important for food security and all of that. Can you speak to that?
So first, I just want to say that what the planners are doing when they allow these subdivisions of the 1 acre, which is the sort of typical size, what happens is they plunk down a 3,000 square foot house, and then they plant an acre of lawn, which takes a lot more water than an acre of agriculture does. And that's our agricultural water that's watering useless lawn, So that's number one problem. The next problem is that, the more agriculture uses 80% of our water in the Colorado River Basin. So really what we have to start looking at is not cutting back domestic water and not talking about savings there. What we have to do is change agriculture. And when you carve it up into smaller parcels, putting water efficiency programs on it and growing food becomes more difficult because the cost of the infrastructure on small places is way greater than it is to do a project on a larger acreage. So that's number one problem. The next problem, and I'm going to bring up my public market now if it's okay with you. So agriculture has very low margins, especially small family farms. Basically, they're not profitable and someone has to work in town to be able to support the lifestyle, really. And that's not how it should be. Everybody's got to breathe, eat, and drink and have shelter. And we've gotten, so we just don't respect the growing of food and don't want to pay the actual cost. This country has had a cheap food policy and it's really hurt the rural areas because the rural economies all used to be and still really are agricultural, but they're not making it. And so somehow we have to send more money, not to all the middlemen that manufacture your food, but back to the people that actually grow it with boots on the ground. And so one of the projects that I've been working on for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years is a Grand Junction public market where the farmers would directly sell their food to the consumers. And I met this really interesting guy from Amish country in Virginia and back that way. And he says in their public market, the Amish guys have a wholesale auction of all their products. So the restaurants can come in and buy, 5 boxes of short ribs or, 10 bushels of beets or whatever like that. And I got to thinking about that, and if you did that in the public market, what a spectacle. How fun would it be to watch them come in there and sell the food with an auctioneer yelling up and standing up. And so there's lots of potential for a public market. It would be a great gathering spot for our community. We could put food trucks and food carts and get food business started. The thing that's always frustrated me here in the Grand Valley is we grow a lot of stuff and it all goes over to the Front Range to be made or value added. We're not keeping any of the additional monies here. The other thing, I went to the Attorney General's meet and greet that he had here about the merger of Kroger's and Safeway. And he got talking about food systems in that conversation. And it's like, he's like, why don't you guys have food maps over here? Why don't you know how your food circulates? What can we do to change that? And there were county commissioners, or there were city councilmen there, but there were no county commissioners. So we need to get our community engaged. So as I move along with the public market, and it is gathering speed, I have some very great supporters at the state and then locally, but we need to get the county involved. When I spoke with them the first time, and the public market will be located in the city because that's where the population is, but most of the food is grown and most of the farms are in the county, and the county just were clueless about the benefits that they would face. So if we could make farmers whole, they wouldn't have to subdivide their property. Young people could make a living off a smaller acreage, so things wouldn't get developed. So it's sort of, when you look at sort of the food ecosystem, you can solve a lot of problems, including healthcare problems, because if you eat healthier food and you're more active, you don't get sick as much. So there's so many benefits of building a nice food economy here and across the nation that's where I'm going to start spending a lot of my time. And I have been for 3 years, but but right now it's been a thankless job.
So for all of you out there, does that tick your card, like get a priority to get that market going and work on that local food map? Thank you. So Janet, let's go back and talk about like just the same kind of problems that you guys have with just, legislative kinds of pushes that you do and how you do that. So I know the Sierra Club, do they do a legislative, ticket? So okay, can you talk to that?
So there is a legislative committee, and they're over in Denver, of course, but they let us know over here what issues are on ballot, things that we should, well, things are trying to get on the ballot. And we talk about them and we try to get involved. Last year was my first time I did lobby days. I'd never gone to the Capitol and lobbied, and it was a little intimidating, but it was also fun. I got to meet who our representatives are and had to keep reminding myself that, yes, they are my representative and we should not be intimidated by that. We had some really great conversation. I was telling Kathryn that, I had a Rick Taggart who at first told us, I only have a minute. I might have to rush out. Well, once we got on a personal level with him, I talked to him about his biking and all that. He really opened up, and then he just started talking about we talked about air quality with him, and he agreed because he's a bicycle rider. He wants to come home and ride his bike and have clean air. So Sierra Club supported a bill that would have, and it was Governor Polis was really hoping it was going to pass, and it would have allowed duplexes and mother-in-law units on people's property. It would have, changed building codes, and the idea behind it is to condense people more, onto the land that's available instead of the sprawl and taking the ag lands away. And also people that are commuting in so far, all that driving back and forth. But I saw a lot of NIMBYism in that, and also a lot of cities that don't want to be told what to do because, they've got their building codes already. They've got their city planning and their pride in their city. But I do see a need, especially as we grow. There's just more population, and how are we going to do this? We need to be smart about it. I don't know if you guys get Netflix, but I am so fired up about the show Live to Be 100, Secrets of the Blue Zones. There's so much wisdom in that. And I think that our city planners really need to take to heart how we proceed forward and how we develop our cities. There are so many healthy ways to do it, more parks, more walkways, more places, more ways to get to where you're going without driving a car. And throughout this documentary, they show that the people that are living to be 100 and more, it's not that they're exercising. Here in America, we think that we got to go to the gym and we're exercising. And Kathryn probably knows it's through hard work. You're working, and they found that some of these people that sit on the floor, they don't have furniture, all that squatting, going up and down. It's just amazing. They're doing all these squats and all this. But another example is how we are going to build our buildings. And I would love to see more innovation and creativity and elasticity in permitting our building permits, so that we could maybe have gray water recycling. All the houses and apartments should be EV ready, solar ready, because we're not going to get out of this air pollution problem without getting off of our addiction to oil and gas. We do need some oil and gas, I'll admit it. But if we could have a cleaner community, and we'd have a healthier community in so many ways. We could save money, actually, healthcare dollars, So I think I got off track. I get really passionate about this stuff. Let's see, some other bills that Sierra Club, they were supporting efficient appliances and the right to repair bill. Let's see, there's probably more, but I don't know them all. So I'll just go ahead and pass the mic.
No, that's great. We were both talking about Live to Be 100, the blue zones, before we started. And, the county and the city, both every 10 years, I don't know how often, they do the vision planning. And they make it clear, if you go to the meetings, it's not just going to go on a shelf, you know, they're going to stick to the vision. But what I loved about the Blue Zone is it really showed some examples of how cities are built that really would meet some of the vision that we do have. So if you get a chance to see it, I think it'd be great. So I'm going to talk about what role citizens can play in your organization.
In our individual organizations?
Just what citizens can do individually and then for your organization.
Okay. Individually, I'd say talk to your elected officials. We have 2 city council members here tonight. And express your concerns. You know, they have to know that there's support for making changes so that we have better air quality. And unless they hear that from citizens, it's not going to happen. So it's important. Talk to your elected officials. Call your federal officials. I remember my first phone call, I was like, oh my God, you really want me to call this person? What if they answer? The truth is they have recorded messages. You rarely talk to a human being, but those I've talked to were really wonderful to talk to, and they listened to me and they passed on the information. So talk to people, talk to your neighbors. I had to tell one of my neighbors that I'm sorry, but you really can't burn that pile of leaves, even though you may have done it where you lived before, but the city says, no, you can't do that. He wasn't happy with me, but I explained that I have asthma and I would prefer not to breathe the smoke from that. So talking to your neighbors is important. Talking to elected officials is important. Writing letters to the editor, let other people know what your views are. Speak up about your health, speak up about, tell the elected officials what you need to be a healthy person here in Grand Junction, and look out for others. The people most impacted by poor air quality are young people and old people, and none of us are getting any younger. But some of the shocking statistics that I found out were things like when you have high pollution days, you have much higher incidence of heart attacks. You have women giving birth earlier. You have more miscarriages on those days. So there's significant impacts to pollution. And there's millions of people around the world every year who die because of polluted air. So it's a serious issue. It is not a political issue. We all need clean air to breathe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Kathryn, you want to?
Watch where you buy your food, who your dollars are going to. You can make a huge difference if you buy local food whenever possible. I'm trying to make that easier for you. Look at the labels, that grass-fed label, Colorado proud, you're supporting your state with your purchases. If you go to the farmer's market and it's like 50 cents more, it's not that big of a deal. Buy it, buy it anyway. The farmers are just trying to make a living. They're not trying to gouge you like some of the big corporations have been known to do. So that's number one. And I agree, you've got to use your voice. When something's important to you, you need to speak up and you need to be loud. Some of the corporations that we're fighting against spend millions of dollars lobbying. They have somebody in Washington, they have a team in Washington all the time. We have to use our voices much better and get the attention, because that's what counts. The legislators, and I've worked with a lot of them now, both nationally and in the state, they go by what they're hearing. And so if they hear lots of people saying the same thing, that's what they're going to start to believe. And they are trying to get reelected. So that's important. So that's the way to sort of outmaneuver the corporations, is just get a really good ground movement to get it going, and they will listen, because there are representatives and they do want to get reelected. The Grassfed Association does support beginning farmers and ranchers. There's a meeting called the Regenerate every year, and it's usually in New Mexico, and it's held in joining with the Holistic Management Institute, which trains people to manage land holistically, meaning sustainably and regeneratively. And then the Quivira Institute, which is a Southwestern group that's sort of doing the same thing. But between the three of them, they have an apprentice program, and they're teaching people, sending them out on ranches that are regeneratively practiced or raising animals. And these young people are learning how to do it. A lot of times they stay and work on that ranch, and some of them have actually started to transition the ranches into their own ownership. So they're moving young people that know how to do regenerative ranching and giving them access to land, because that's one of the huge issues that we face right now is land costs are so high that young people are unable to enter the industry and get any equity in it because they can't ever own the land because they don't make enough money in agriculture to be able to make that purchase. So we're looking at ways to help to smooth that out and help them. But it's a huge issue. We need more farmers, and they can't make a living at it. There's sort of a bottleneck there that we have to solve. So that's my advice to you.
So Kristin, I noticed that you had prepared the answers to, that was good. And I skipped around. I'm so sorry. So what are the economic issues that are impacted and how can they be addressed?
One of the things I think we need to do when we are making decisions is we really need to make decisions and take public health into that decision-making process. Because what we're doing now is we are allowing polluters to transfer the costs of their pollution to individual families. So you live next to a polluting industry and you have a child with asthma, you're going to be paying hundreds of dollars for asthma medication. It is not cheap to have a child with asthma. And if we don't take into account the total cost of what pollution is, we're just shifting that to individuals and shifting that to families. And unfortunately, we'll have companies that come in and say, we're creating jobs. Jobs are great up to a point, but what about health? What about our health? What are we doing to our health if we don't take into account what a polluting industry will do to the people living close by? So the other thing is, when I was working the last 2 years of my career, I managed volunteers at the Visitor Center out on Horizon Drive. And that was back in 2013, 14, when we had a lot of spring burning going on and fall burning. And we had people coming out to recreate and ride on our trails. And they would say, what's with all the burning? Because they drive into the valley and it was filled with smoke. And a lot of that was from burning. And it's really hard to explain to people, well, we allow burning here. Well, why? I didn't have an answer for that. So it affects tourism. It truly does. When you have smoky skies, people aren't that excited about doing a long bicycle ride and breathing that for a couple of hours. So there are definitely economic impacts of really polluted air.
How about you, Janet? What are the economic issues that are impacted and how can they be addressed?
Everything's connected. So our human activity just, is an effect on everything we do. I think one of the biggest hurdles we have now is how do we curtail oil and gas development, but not put a bunch of people out of a job. We need to make sure that those people have a way out or a way to continue. So money has to be put into transitioning them into ways to make a living as well. Let's see. What was the question again?
Economic impacts.
So there's a false narrative out there that we need to develop more oil and gas because we need to have domestic oil and gas. And the truth of it is, if you really look into it, is that so much of it is being exported. And I meant to do this before I left, and I'm not sure how much of it is. But an example is this proposal to have the Uinta Basin Railroad come through Colorado, which would be a horrible idea on so many fronts. That would give us noise pollution, air particulate pollution, the fear of train derailment going into the Colorado River and ruining our drinking water for millions of people. Our quality of life could really go down. And so I've done a lot of research on that project, and talk about jobs. Utah really wants it. They've got they've got 7 rural counties that are depending on jobs, and this is their answer to employ over almost 8,000 people. Even the Northern Ute Reservation up there is in favor of it because they have royalties and minerals, on the mineral rights. So these are really big issues. How do we get around all that? And I don't have all the answers to it, but I do think that we need to continue to speak out. I know we've written letters to the Surface Transportation Board, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Forest Service. I would love for the city of Grand Junction, city council members, as well as the county, to take a stance and say, we don't want the trains in our community. I know our county commissioners are not going to take that stand. I don't know if our city council would make a statement on it, but I think it would give a strong message that we do believe in having healthy communities. Oh, I know. I know we have 2 really great senators who are who have spoken out against it, so that's great. But I think locally, it would also send a strong message. So I don't know all the answer. I think that we are creative, smart people, and if we keep working on solutions, we will come up with them.
Can you hold on just a second? Hold that thought. I was remiss. I was supposed to read a statement by Laura Bloom, who was unable to attend tonight. She works with Western Colorado Alliance and heads up their energy environment. So I just want to read that right now. So that's that all of you get that. At Western Colorado Alliance, we're empowering our community towards a healthy, just, and self-reliant future. Our grassroots organization addresses climate change as a core component, working within our existing programs to promote environmental well-being, prioritize impacted communities, and foster a resilient region for generations to come. Our approach to climate work encompasses the various initiatives within our programs that influence human interaction with the environment, specifically those contributing to human accelerated climate change, with a focus on promoting the health of land and the people in Western Colorado, prioritizing disproportionately impacted communities. In advancing regional self-reliance, we have developed the following framework. All climate work must be based on justice. That is, we must care for and make changes to alleviate the burden on disproportionately impacted communities. Environmental justice is a good foundation for, and the foundation that the Alliance uses to better care for, empower, and protect those divested communities. Oil and gas must consider climate change in their endeavors, and we work to develop and implement plans at the state and national levels in order to improve operator standards. Colorado has some of the best standards to date, but as we learn and grow, our standards must also. This should be planned and well thought out and with full just transitioning planning. Local food and agriculture are staples of the Valley, and we must consider their implications as well. We strongly believe in the importance of biological carbon sequestration and utilizing crops and local food distribution are intersectional solutions that will take care of our community and our planet for a long time. Clean and renewable energy is perhaps one of our most contemporary programs. We are fortunate to work in a state that already leads on CRE work. So much of our efforts here are targeted at accessing plans and resources here at the local level. We also support electrical vehicle programs and a variety of utility scale solar projects. So thanks, Laura, for giving us that statement, and we wish you were here. And we just have a couple of more questions, and then we'll go to the audience. Is that okay? There's just, I think we've addressed what community members are most likely to suffer ill effects of an unhealthy environment. Do you guys feel like we've answered that? And I think you've answered what your organization is doing to address these issues and what successes and obstacles you've encountered. Does anybody want to add something to what they've already said as far as?
I want to go back and address sort of the underserved community. So I work heavily with food assistance. I make sure that our less fortunate people have access to healthy food. And I think that's really important. I don't know who said it first, but we're not okay unless everyone's okay. We can make this community a much better place if we pay attention to those that don't have enough. And in the ranching community and the farming community, we already donate quite a bit during the growing season to our local food banks, but we could do a lot more if we were okay financially. So as we get lifted up and are able to make enough living, we can help lift up the people. And that's really, farmers and ranchers are nurturing people. That's in their nature to do it. It hurts them to not be able to give their food away as much as they would like to, but they do want to feed their community. So if we can make farming and ranching more sustainable financially for the farmers and ranchers, we can lift the whole community up.
About you, anything else?
I just wanted to mention the Inflation Reduction Act, which is giving a tool for people to get electric cars and EV plug-ins in their homes. And the state has also contributed money. So this year and next year are the best years that you can buy an electric vehicle, because you can get up to $12,500 off of a car. You have to do some research and really, find out what you can do. But there's also a tool, and I found out about it. It's called the Biden Administration Tracker, the Center for American Progress. And you can just type that in, Biden Administration Tracker, the Center for American Progress. And it's a tool that shows what local projects might be going on in your community that are funded with the IRA money or not being done. But I did see a list in our state, and it's very encouraging. There's a couple pages of projects that are going on due to that money. And so that has been a very important thing to help us work towards climate change mitigation and encouraging us to drive electric cars. I wish I had one. The other thing I guess I wanted to say is messaging. And I think that if we have positive messaging coming from our leaders that encourage us and lets us know that we are on the right track and that we are working together. I love what Kathryn said about, together, if we're all healthy, we're a healthier community, mentally, physically. And I don't know, I guess I kind of believe in a utopian society, but I think that we can reach these goals. And I am encouraged by all the wonderful things that are going on. The regenerative agriculture is a big one. When I met with Rick Taggart, though, he said that he did think we could tighten up, make stricter regulations on the ag burning. We should work on it. He told me that last February. So maybe that is something we should work on. I'm not sure. Okay.
Thanks, Janet. We are going to have a microphone here for questions. And so your job, if you have a question, we're going to start it over there. And I'm going to turn this, I don't want to turn this on. The slip on the bottom turns it on. Do you want to take this? And they do, oh, you pass it around. Thank you. So the rule in some organizations is that your question cannot be longer than the answer. So try to make it succinct that we can answer. So you guys got your thinking caps on? Okay.
I think I've turned it on.
Oops, so sorry.
Hello. This is not a question, actually. It's an answer to one of your biochar issues. There's a new biochar facility, generating facility being built in Montrose Forest Products. It's going to be big. So that's pretty short shipping area. So think about that.
Thank you. Right over here.
And this goes back to Janet Wyatt's. Can you hear me?
Is it on?
Yeah, you can hear me now? Okay. This goes back to Janet's comment about the Uinta Railway, Uinta Basin Railway project that's temporarily on hold due to a appeals court injunction. But the chances are it could come back as a problem. A member of our little congregation here, UU congregation, has been putting together a video. He has a deep background in PBS, which he used to work for years. He's done a lot of research for that video on this very subject. And he's just about, I've seen the script that he's prepared for it, the narration. He's about to pull it all together and release it. And he'll simply be donating that to all of us. He's not charging anything for this. It's kind of a public service because it's what he believes in. And I know enough about him and about this project to think this could really be a galvanizing piece of visual communication that all of your organizations, all of us really could use, because it is a direct threat of the consequences of unmanaged development on this fragile ecology that we call the Grand Valley. And I have to underscore fragile. I think we've danced around that a bit, but I think that's really the word. So there's a whole question of carrying capacity for this high desert region, and this railroad and the transportation of heated crude at 5 times the current volume is a big threat. But it's also a big subject which can galvanize a lot of conversations. I'll try to keep you all informed on when this actually comes out, but I think Mike, who's developed this, is going to want people to see it.
Well, please do. Our couple of us from Sierra Club met with Laura Bloom with Western Colorado Alliance, and we have a list of actions, possible actions we can take and where our money would best be spent. And we've talked about doing some public education. I know that I've brought it up in certain crowds and people go, what? What is that? You could take action right now and write letters to the BLM over in Utah, because it's kind of in their hands right now. We need to tell them they need to take a stance against the train. They need to make the strongest EIS. And so that was one thing, but yeah, thank you for the information.
So I want to remind everybody, you can still get up and get a snack or something during this time. So anybody else with a question, please raise your hand. So Marianne has.
Thank you all for being here. This was very informative tonight. My question is the economical benefit to the farmers, and as far as the regenerative farming and also the air quality, as far as burning, because that's what I keep hearing from people in our community, some farmers, it's much cheaper to burn than do anything else. So thank you.
And that's always a problem. One, mindset. This is how we've always done it. And two, change is expensive. So a lot of the burning is from the older generation. It's changed. You've all noticed it's decreased. We haven't made any new laws or anything. People have just decided that's not the right thing to do. And there are different things that you can do. One of them is put livestock on it and graze off the residues. And a lot of people are doing that. So instead of being a cost of getting rid of something, you're getting some money for allowing it to be grazed. So that's what I advocate. And I move my cattle around a lot on lands to graze them off, and so they can grow hay crops on them. Right now, I don't know whether people are going to get another cutting on their field or not. It looks like we're going to get some rain, and it starts to growing slower and it's harder to dry. So instead of spending all that equipment time and diesel, just graze it off. So a lot of people are taking advantage of that. Does that answer your question?
And we do have goats here. I wanted to let you, there were some by the bike path this summer.
I think lighting the match will always be cheaper than doing anything else, unfortunately. And there are people who just love to burn.
Go ahead, Eric.
Okay. This is a story up in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. It's kind of southeast of Portland. They had a agriculture where they raised seed for lawns, the grass. They'd raise up the grass and let it go to seed, and then they'd harvest the seed and sell it, obviously. And for many years, what they did is after they got the seed off the ground, they'd burn it. Okay, and so because they said that helped decrease pathogens in the soil and in other areas, so the next year it wouldn't be as bad for the grass. But as I say that, you realize that the Willamette Valley got full of smoke from all these fields being burnt. Okay, and so they called in the ARS and told them to fix this problem. Okay, and so after about 5 years of research, the ARS fixed it. I don't know what the research was. So I mentioned this just to tell you the story. So I would suggest that somebody, if you have time, to go to the Willamette Valley grass problem and see what happened, see what the ARS discovered, and see what they did, so they can apply the same thing to here. I mean, I don't know what the exact problem was, how they, like I said, I don't know how they fixed it, but it was after, like I said, 5 years or so of research, it was done. They didn't have to burn it to maintain the grass production that they had before, without having to burn everything.
Thank you. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Janet, do we have a time limit here? We have a question over there, but are we getting close to calling it into?
Last question?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Last question.
Question. I was just thinking about getting the word out to people. Most TV stations and maybe even radio stations, but TV it'd be a great medium to do a public service announcement. Have, maybe someone who used to work for PBS could take care of getting a little, like have a cow walking out on a pasture or something, and then just put it on all the TV stations, because you can do it for free. Or
That's
for
brilliant,
less,
really.
yeah.
Okay, thank you guys so much for coming. I've learned a lot. I'm sure you have. So let's all join the league and help them with this priority that they have for all of these different issues. Thank you, Jan. Do you have more that you want to end with? Or-
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Jan.
Yeah, thank you.
A few minutes we can visit. Things on your index card, you can hand them to me, or